A story that has become a roiling crisis at CBS and cuts to the heart of really the situation that we are in as a country. 60 Minutes is the most venerated and most watched television news show, period. And it has been successful on both editorial grounds and reaching an audience. So it is not in a position where you would expect that any logical, independent, objective executive would look at something that's working and try to destroy it. That itself is suspicious. Indeed, it's a little different than the debates over another show on CBS that recently ended, Colbert, where there was a political argument against it, to be sure, but there were some valid economic arguments against it, and at least reforming it. Here, the new MAGA bosses of CBS don't really have that kind of logical or business defense. And according to some of the most respected, independent, nonpartisan CBS veterans, this is a political hatchet job to curry favor with the government. Also a contrast because Colbert, in his classiness, didn't even say all that. What you're looking at here is one of those journalists now speaking out. Steve Kroft is highly respected. There he was interviewing a president. He's reported around the world. He's tangled with both parties. And he's weighing in on the crisis we've been covering, saying basically 60 Minutes, as the audience has known it, no longer exists. The firings are too substantial, he said, referring to what these new MAGA owners are doing. It seems almost impossible, he adds, to imagine what kind of show they can put on in September. Now, Mr. Kroft, like the other CBS veterans, is drawing on a whole multi-decade career of credibility. I understand when you look at stories like this, people rush to say, well, what's the angle, or disgruntled, or political? But we're talking about people who, in the best sense, have retired out of a great, strong career. Their legacy's intact. Their money's been made. However you want to look at it, you can't really impugn Mr. Kroft here. He is clearly, best we understand, saying what he really thinks about what he views as an attack on journalism in the name of trying to win over the government, what we would call a type of soft corruption if you buy his theory. And Kroft is not alone.
I think it's been disastrous for the show, for the audience.
The people from Paramount are coming in, Harry Weiss coming in and saying, you guys suck. You're Luddites. We have to make changes.
I don't know where Scott Pelley will land. Frankly, I hope he lands right here. And I hope that everybody in journalism and everybody who values a free press figures out ways to outmaneuver the people who are trying to take the free press from us.
I think that pushing a news organization in a certain political, ideological direction is anathema to journalists.
I think that this is journalistic interference. It makes no business sense whatsoever. The show is still doing very well. It's the highest rated news program on television, and it has been that way for more than 50 years.
Facts. It sometimes is a bit of a side point for journalists to come around and talk about who's the most watched or not. And in theory, you could say, well, other television shows are competitors. But we're talking about facts. 60 Minutes is that. I mentioned in our reporting this week, sometimes the top 10 Nielsen ratings are a bunch of NFL games and 60 Minutes. And that matters for the substance of this story because any executive claiming, well, this is a business thing, doesn't have any business ground to stand on. That was, I guess, the best thing they could come up with. And Mr. Pelley and Mr. Kroft and others have some credibility here. So what's next? The Post reports, many insiders expect that it could deteriorate and degrade further. The show has 3 top remaining correspondents, Leslie Stahl, who are considering resigning, a kind of a potential Saturday night massacre protest, the media version, against a kind of a MAGA kneecapping. The Post reports that. CBS News, I should mention, denies, as I've said, accusations of bias. And the incoming EP, who's only been on the job for a few days, has emphasized that what he wants to do is make a business case for 60 Minutes to change and reach people digitally, that he is not, he says, trying to carry out some MAGA agenda. Mr. Pelley, who is leaving the show in a very different way than one would have expected, CBS was in no way ever signaling that they viewed him as fireable or fireable for cause. He was really one of their longest-serving stars, as his record attests.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look.
When that man stood up.
Yes.
and said, we have a problem in this country and it's Muslims. You let that pass, and I wonder what that tells us about you.
Well, he said much more than that.
Well, you told the Congress they don't do their work as well as your daughters do their homework.
Well, what I said was that they procrastinate, and that is absolutely true.
The war has not gone the way you had hoped it would, and they wonder whether it's just crushing on your spirit.
Quite the contrary. My spirits are strong.
Those are just a few moments. You could go to YouTube and watch a lot more of Pele's work. The point here, when you see all that, is he was operating at a level where every president in both parties during his tenure dealt with him. So this isn't one of those things about red and blue, left and right. This is about how things have been when the center holds in our system, however imperfect, and when you have, at least allegedly, according to these critics, and I've quoted them, the allegation of a governmental media type of corruption, what in other countries they call state media. It's a problem if you buy that theory of the case. Trump wants to use government power and abuse the levers of power he holds to undercut the First Amendment itself. Whatever you think of, say, George Bush, who I showed there, he was not reported to or accused of doing this level of First Amendment violence. And the founders made it the First Amendment for a reason, because without that, our ability to talk to each other without fear or favor from the government actually taking over or turning off this mechanism, or the internet or the newspapers. We know Trump's suing the Journal, Times, etc. Without those measures, then you don't have a free flow of ideas and facts, and you don't really have a democracy, even if there's technically voting. I don't mean to be so severe with it, but that's what it is. Trump openly said that he wanted to abuse governmental power to yank the broadcast license of CBS, a move he's also used, by the way, against ABC. He's targeted, as I mentioned. I'll show you the rest of the journalists, TV networks, and newspapers they've gone after. They are taking control, his MAGA allies, of CBS already and CNN next, if Trump approves the merger, which all of this public stuff shows how this company wants to show him how it would look.
But CNN, in particular, CNN does such false reporting. But now they have new ownership, so maybe it'll straighten it out. I doubt it. But it's hard to straighten garbage out.